Welcome to the Sex Help for Smart People podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Jurgens, self-liberated former science professor, sexologist, and dual certified master intimacy coach. I specialize in helping you transform your relationships to get the kinds of sex, intimacy, and connection you crave using research-backed practice and play. So let's get at it. Hey, my dears, welcome to episode 53. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I have a really fun, special one. This is like dear to my heart because I interviewed a former client who has just made so many amazing changes in her life since she came to me. You know, she came with, and I talked to her about that this was okay to disclose, but she came with some, just like your really common sexual challenges for a lot of women, a lot of shame, a lot of body shame, tension, feeling like kind of like she wasn't sure how to kind of let go, being up in her head, having some orgasm challenges with her partner. We solved all that stuff really quickly, actually. I think it was in 3 weeks. And then we spent a bunch of other time just helping her really process through discomfort in relationship and fears, anxieties, and really coming home to herself in her connection with herself and what she wanted in relationship and how to really get all of those things, get the things that she wanted. And she is a wonderful woman by the name of Kema. And she's going to talk to you today. And we're going to just do a little chat, basically, and you get to listen in on our chat while we catch up. And she talks about her experience with coaching and really like what the value was for her, her perspective on it, how she feels on the other side, and some of the things that she learned along the way and how they apply to the rest of her life also. So I think it's just a really beautiful, wonderful conversation. I think it's such an amazing process. And having been through a process of this kind of self-development myself and really reclaiming my own sexuality, it's just really fun for me to talk to somebody else who did the same thing, and she happened to do it with me. So here's the interview with Kema Hagar, and you can actually find her on Instagram at Kema Hagar too. So we can just kind of talk about how this whole process went for you. And if that sounds good, you can really share whatever feels good to you about like your experience in, and even starting like where you were when you started. I know that's a while, like thinking back, sometimes when we've made so many changes in our life, it's hard to like even think back to our poor past selves. Our poor past selves who were like, I don't know what to do. Right.
Totally.
But can you tell us a little bit or about just like speak to your past self a little bit? Is that all right?
100%.
Yay.
Past self. Okay, Laura, when I found you, I was in a new relationship and I had exited a year prior, a long-term relationship that I found almost mirrored all of my shame shadows in my sensual, sexual, intimate life. Really hard because I realized I grew up with so many things. I mean, a lot of us are conditioned to have shame in our bodies and our sexuality. But yeah, it just really like dug me into a hole being in the relationship I was in before the long-term one. So I entered this new relationship that just felt like really open, and he was super supportive of my journey. And I found myself in all these like, I had all these limitations in my brain that he was not expressing. And so it just felt safe enough to start doing this work, which I was doing on my own, but not really with the intention of even really bringing it to my partnership. It was more about like healing my body. But now it was about both. That was my intention, at least. So when I found you, I was feeling really excited and hopeful about the potential of my connection with my body and being less inhibited and less shame and just being freer to express myself and own my pleasure and all of these different things. And so, yeah, and then we went on so many different side quests and journeys alongside of that, but all of them felt like they were completely helpful and conducive to my original intention. So that's where I And I've, leaps and bounds since, but yeah, that's where it all started.
Mm. Awesome. Yeah, and you were feeling kind of blocked, you said too, right? Like
Super
you were
block.
excited, but you were like, I don't know what to do about these blocks.
Oh, yeah, very blocked. I was really nervous. I remember being really nervous and oh yeah, there was a lot that I like didn't get into even, but you created such a safe space for me to do that, which was really powerful because I don't know if I even shared this with you, maybe I did, but I'd worked with one sex coach before. And I don't know if it was like too much too soon or like what happened between her and I, but I just didn't feel like I was like, ah, no, I like took my hands off the wheel. I was like, this isn't really working for me. But with you, it was like, I don't know, you just created such a space and gently like coaxed me into new territory. And I think you have a playfulness too that I personally like need with everything I do. So we met me where I was speaking my language. Like we were able to play in some of the areas that felt really like scary, sticky, and like, that was so helpful for me.
Oh, we always had so much fun. I mean, sometimes it was hard. There was a lot of tears too.
Yeah.
That's okay. They were good tears.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely. And I think that's also what it was is everything I brought was so welcome. You made me feel like everything I brought was so welcome, which I think is a huge part of the journey of owning your sexuality, owning your body in relationship to your intimate life, because a lot comes up and is intimate. And if you can, you basically modeled how I could meet myself with that welcoming, all-encompassing, playful, loving kind of energy.
Yeah, good. And you do now. Look at
Yeah, so much.
you're doing such a good job.
Actually, in fact, I have to tell you this story. I have a client that I work with because I do meditation, mostly energy work, and I took a hiatus for a while and now still have pivoted quite a bit from doing that one-on-one work, but I have a client that's long-standing and I can't remember, but there were two things. Well, he actually noticed like how I was and shifts I'd made that were totally alongside of this journey. And he's like, "Yeah, I like noticed you're like going through it for a little bit, and now I feel like you're in a really good place." And then we were talking about how he needs to, what it would look like for him to nurture himself. And I used some of the things that you had taught shared with him. And I was like, well, now I talk to myself like I'm a sweet little baby. And he was like, yeah, this is no one. But it's really sweet to me because I didn't used to. So like now people think I just exude that energy, but I really did not. Like I was so critical and so hard on myself. And I think anybody could have seen it. So now everyone notices that I treat myself like a sweet little baby.
Yay. And it feels like a million times better, right? When I
So much.
learned that from being like cracking the whip on myself to actually treating myself like I wish I had always been parented,
Yes.
then it releases this huge burden.
Yes.
And like, you don't have to feel ashamed of things. You don't have to feel bad about things anymore because it's okay. It's okay to have struggles. It's okay to have challenges. We don't have to ignore them. Yeah, so
Yeah.
good. I love that for you so much. That makes me so happy to hear.
Thank
You
you.
did such good work.
Thank you.
So, for you, what would you say to someone who was really like kind of in it of in the place of, I just don't know if anything can help. Everything feels like it's my fault. You know how it is. Everything feels like it's my fault. I don't know if anything can help. Like, just really hard time trying something new.
Yeah.
What would you say? I mean, because it is hard. It's hard to come to a coach and talk about something really intimate, especially when when we talk to ourselves in such harsh ways, we kind of expect other people are going to do that too,
Yeah.
or that we're going to be somehow rejected because we're already rejecting ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to see a different way forward, and it's so hard to see like how you could do it differently, but at the same time you're like, I have to do it all myself, right? Like, I have to do it all by myself. So I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
like, what would you say to someone who is really like considering coaching but kind of in that scared space?
Oh, yeah. Good question. Well, as somebody who's a coach myself and
Mhm.
coached and has been seriously afraid to be coached. And also, like, I've been on all ends of this. And I'm speaking for you, Laura, because I would assume, but I'll speak for myself too. Like, coaches love, like, they know you're here to stumble. Like, that's the whole, I think that you made me feel like that too. I was reminded every time that I met with you that, like, obviously I'm going to stumble. Obviously, I'm going to feel blocked. Obviously, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to meet me right there. So I think it's like, obviously finding that person, the first step is finding that person. That is a huge step. But then know that once you have that person, like, you're going to be met wherever you are. You don't have to, like, which is one of my things. Like, I always think I show up perfectly and like 200 times more evolved than I am. And that's the whole, and we're here and that's the container. So it totally makes sense to feel uncomfortable and to be scared. It just like just show up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's such good advice. Just do it anyway. Do it scared.
Yeah, I love do it scared as a mom. I'm always doing everything scared. I'm always scared.
Me too. If I didn't do it all scared, I wouldn't do anything at all.
Exactly. Like, we're all so scared. Just show up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's the only way I've ever made any progress in my life. Because otherwise we just get the same results, right? Like we just
Yeah.
do the same thing, we stay comfy, and
Yeah.
we can go decades like that and it just gets more intolerable and feels more helpless. So it's just like pull the band-aid off and do it scared. I love that
Do it.
advice. It's so good. So
Yeah.
what about like this is also, I think some people are really worried about an investment in themselves, right? Like we are willing to buy stuff in our culture. We're taught from the time we're born to buy stuff. We're trained to buy stuff by our entire culture that's constantly like, oh, you feel a little bit bad, have this stuff, right? Or like drink this bottle of wine or whatever it is, right? But actually investing in changing ourselves and how we relate to ourselves and how we, exist in the world, how we feel on the inside. I think sometimes people feel like that is just selfish
Hmm.
or we're not really given permission to invest in ourselves as much, I don't think. So it takes I think a lot of courage to do that and an extra dose of hope. And you have to really see the value. And I wonder, do you have any thoughts on the value of coaching in general or the value that you got from your experience with me? Do you feel anything that you want to share about that?
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, the value is so high in investing in yourself. This because when you pour into you, you genuinely overflow. So I am always saying, like, when it really is an investment and you will get a return. It's like, and it doesn't happen in a container. Like, you are a holistic being. So whatever you're pouring into, whatever asset, a factor, or just even like my sex life, like how is this going to help whatever, my career? Like, there's always a million options. You're like, how do I invest in myself? What could I do better at? Even if you're going, just pick an avenue, it will, again, will overflow. You'll overflow in areas you didn't even expect that seem entirely unrelated, but are so related. And you learn so much about yourself. Like, we had so many conversations in these sessions where things came that sometimes I was like, what does this have to do with anything that I was intending on? But again, it does, and you just trust that process. So investing in yourself is the most important thing. My number one expense in this life is like self growth. And whether that's through coaching or it's been therapy before, or it's been courses, because I just love to grow and I want to continue to be the best and better version of myself. And everything in our life up levels when we do that. So I'm like, I can't say enough. Like, it's
Yeah.
so, 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 so worth it.
That's been my experience for sure with investing in coaching. And to be honest, I'll say I have invested in some coaching that hasn't even been good coaching. When I first
Totally.
started, like I invested in a coach that was a horrible coach. And she was a great podcaster and she was a great salesperson. And so, but she was really bad as a coach, but I still really loved that I did it. And that because the step of investing in me, the actual, like just the act of investing in me and deciding to show up for all that coaching was amazing and changed everything for me. Really, like deciding that I was worth it, deciding to show up all the time. And I'm not saying like go invest in bad coaching. I really, recommend you try not to do that if you can. But like even that wasn't that, like now I'm really discerning about my coaches and I try to invest in good coaching. But I still learned so much just because I let myself invest in my own inner journey.
Yeah.
And so I so agree with you it always up levels everything. And then if you actually are working on something in particular, you want to be discerning about who you work with and make sure it's a good fit. And, sometimes it's not the right time, or sometimes it's just not the right vibe. It's not the right person. Right. But I agree with what you're saying so much. I just think so many people, we don't recognize that it's okay. Right. We feel like it's somehow selfish. But what you're saying is like it overflows, and it also overflows onto other people.
Yeah.
Like
That's
all
my
our
whole
relationships get better, right?
Yeah, literally that's why I trademarked the is selfless self-care. And I actually trademarked that for my skincare line that I started because I was like, if you pour like even just pouring into your own self-care time through skincare, like giving yourself a moment of breath and love and nourishment, like that overflows. So if you can
Mhm.
imagine, like that's a serum. Like, can you imagine how it is when you're sitting with a person who's holding for you and all that you are and all that you've been through and you're holding space for yourself, like it is so valuable. You overflow. And when you were saying that even just that first moment that you decided to invest in a coach, even though it wasn't a great coach,
Uh-huh.
I've been there too. And it's just showing, yeah, it's showing yourself that you're worth it. And I think a lot of us show up to coaching. I'm speaking for myself, but I've see this in my clients a lot with questioning our worth in some way. And that's why just that first step already, you're taking such a quantum leap in your healing journey and showing yourself like you are worth it. And then you
Absolutely.
continue from there.
Yeah, that's so great. Oh, and I love, like, I didn't know you had a skincare line. I'm so excited about that. I love that. I have like I talk with clients sometimes just about that moment of like just taking a little bit of extra care and having something that feels delicious, right? Like having something that feels good to you, that you enjoy, and letting yourself fully enjoy it. And that might be putting like an amazing lotion on your face, right? That just like smells just right and feels just right to you, right? And it doesn't have any nasty stuff in it. And it's just like yummy. And that giving yourself that little gift fills our cup in a way where then we have more to give to other people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we don't have to spend billions of dollars on all this stuff, right? But just having these little things and making some priorities,
Exactly.
right, is what I hear you saying. That's where you can prioritize that you're in your list of priorities.
You're at least on the page.
And I do
Yeah.
get I have a lot of clients who come because they are trying to fix themselves for someone else and quickly realize that that's actually not, well, mostly because I tell them that's not the way, that's not the path. We're not going to do that. Like, you're amazing. You're not broken. You can find yourself so you can connect with somebody else is authentically is totally wonderful. But sometimes people do come trying to fix. And I think that's also understandable. And if that's where they are, that's okay. But I wonder if you've ever had that impulse, like,
Mhm.
I'm going to fix this thing so that my partner is happy.
Totally. Admittedly, that's kind of like, well, I was on my path a little bit. So I was
Maybe a
like a
little
little
both.
50-50. Yeah, because
50-50.
yeah, which was, I think, and again, it's like meet yourself where you are. And you did meet me where I was. And that was important because it was some form of catalyst for me. I still had my own journey and I started it before him, but
Mhm.
it gave me that little extra push. But then it all came back to me. And I actually even ended up ending that relationship. But ultimately, I feel like just the tools that we had together supported every part of it, from nourishing that relationship to nourishing me to helping me understand what I needed more from my pleasure, like life on a grander scale. So again, it doesn't happen in a
Yeah,
vacuum. It's like all the elements
totally.
of my
Yeah.
life.
You did
Yeah,
such an amazing job of really tuning into yourself and
thanks.
honoring yourself, even when it was so scary.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was scary. And there were so many different iterations, like we said, about paths we took, starting with my pleasure, my body, and moving into more of just tuning into like the somatic experience that I was having and what my body was trying to communicate with me. So it went from like pleasure to like deep intuition, but that was actually very like
Hmm.
practical, important.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Yeah. It was all about your safety and relationship, your attachment history,
yep, yep.
and your ways that you wanted to show up for yourself. Absolutely.
Into
Sometimes
that
it comes,
relationship and out.
huh?
You like we did this like yeah.
Yeah. It all came together for, when we started, even before we started recording, you were just saying that you're feeling like you're leading yourself from your heart has been really paying off.
100%.
I'm
And
so
the
happy to hear that.
thank you. And like you helping me connect with my body more somatically also gave importance to that because I don't know, I didn't trust my body the way that but I don't, I mean, I think a lot of us are so disconnected from our
For sure.
bodies and my body and you and anybody who's listening's body, everybody's body is so communicative and wise and it's not arbitrary what we're experiencing. And I finally learned to just like surrender to the messages that I was receiving from this vessel and let it guide me. And now it is actually, and I don't even think, Laura, we've talked about this, but like it really is like my number one guiding force. Where,
Absolutely.
yeah, around people, around situations, like if I feel in my body, like thing is like if my nervous system feels really frantic, if I feel like, yeah, breath can't deepen, if I feel this tension, I really trust that now. It doesn't mean I like run, but I'm just like, okay, I hear you and I really honor this experience because it's wise and it's talent, it's talking.
Doesn't
So
lie. Our brains
no,
can give us all kinds of fucked up stories, but our bodies just don't really lie if we learn how to listen, right? And that's where a
yes,
lot of people feel shut down sexually for good reason, because they actually, if they might feel unsafe for some reason, right? Like it could be their current relationship, it could be the past, it could be history.
yep,
They might feel pressured or unfree or all kinds of things. Like it's just not safe or they can't trust.
yes,
And a lot of it comes back. You're like, just like you're saying, to trusting what's happening, your messages from yourself.
yes,
Yeah. And we can do that in all areas of our life. Like I know you've talked about really bringing that into your business. And I so admire that. Some of the people, in fact, the only people I know who have both very successful, lucrative businesses on the money side and simultaneously feel awesome about their businesses and not overtaxed or stretched or like overworking. The only people I know who have both of those things are people who are listening to their bodies.
that's 100,000 trillion percent sense. Like, yeah, I don't think you could because people will like it's not coming it feels like when you're listening to your body you're in such a place of alignment and synergy and it's again that overflow. I keep using that word, but you start to receive from the experience and the experience receives from you. It's so much better than just like that push, push, push that so many people are doing and you can do it, but you're not going to feel good and you're probably going to burn out and all these other things.
Yeah, been there, done that, right? We get drained.
For sure.
We have to come back to ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. So, is there anything that you would want to say to any like people who are thinking about working with me? They're thinking about it. They're out there. They're thinking about it. What do you want to say to them as a person who has like had this journey that you've had?
Ah, so much. So much. If I could have like Laura in my pocket at all times,
I would like to be in
I
your
wish
pocket.
I could have you in my pocket at all times because you're fun and because you're so smart and you can feel just so grounded and grounding. And that alone is so, so, so valuable. But then not to mention, obviously, you're well studied, well versed, and you can tell you've put this work into play in your own life and just so wise. So it's such a safe space. And if you haven't had a lot of safe space in your life, I mean, it's like makes me emotional. Like, again, that alone is invaluable to have because that shifts your brain. Like, you literally get to experience what safety feels like just through working with that. And knowing that you can bring into your day-to-day life and your relationships and all of the things at the very least. But then there's 100 times more because of the intimacy, depth, and again, your expertise. And I learned so much about myself, but I also just learned to feel like what it feels like to be in a safety around some of the most quote unquote taboo or uncomfortable or shameful topics. And I'm using air quotes because, that's just what society has done. But if we can feel good there, like, damn, you can't, liberation is on the other side. So many areas. I'm serious.
Yeah, thank you.
So I can't say enough.
Thank you so much. I
Dude,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
that. I had such a good time working with you, and I'm glad we get to be friends now.
Me too. Oh, grateful in every way. In every way.
Yeah, I really respect all of the effort that you put in and all of the work you did. Because I know it's not easy, right? It's not easy. It's like, whew, this is gonna like sometimes I see sometimes when I show up for my coaching sessions for people when I'm in a coaching relationship, I have a business coach right now. And there'll be days when I show up and I'm just like, God damn it, I don't feel like being vulnerable.
Totally. Oh my God. There's
Like
so many days.
I don't know if I can do it today. And that's where you're right. You meet everybody where they're at with what their capacity is in the moment. But I want to say you did such an amazing job of being brave and showing up vulnerable regularly, even through some really hard situations. And I respect that so much.
Thank you so much. That's it too. The practice of being vulnerable alone is also a great practice.
It is actually, it really is because we can't have these like I feel like we're relationships, right? Relationships, the quality of our relationship is the quality of how we are able to be vulnerable and really truly honest with each other. And I know I needed practice in that
Oh,
in order
me
to be able
too.
to do it.
Yeah, and coaching container. It's almost like the coaching container with whoever you're working with
Mhm.
and whatever you're working on, you're gonna gain you're gonna strengthen certain qualities like vulnerability and intimacy and it's just self-reflection and the being held and being seen and all of these things. And then you also get whatever else you're on, especially if you have a good coach. But like the worst case is you don't have a good coach, but you at least get those things off.
Yeah,
Or those.
hopefully. I have worked with a few people who unfortunately have come from really difficult situations where they felt really like unsafe and
Ooh,
kind of like gaslighted because there are actually unfortunately a lot of coaches who have no background in trauma, no background in any sort of body-based work. And they can kind of like if it's only mindset, you
yeah,
can kind of get into a scenario where you always feel like you're somehow wrong,
that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
right? And I do like try to warn people off on that a little bit just to be grounded in their own, spidey senses that if they don't feel heard, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's the point.
Like, I don't know I've never had somebody tell me that they didn't feel heard, but if that was the situation, I would always want to just like, oh my gosh, here's all your money back. Find
Oh,
find somebody who fits you better, right? Like, and if, I would feel devastated if that was the case, but I do think that is sometimes the case, just not out of ill intention on the coach's part, but just maybe not the right training fit for the right person
totally. Yeah,
or what the issue is or where they're coming from. But I agree with you that in a good coaching container, you should definitely feel safe
definitely feel safe.
to be
Safe,
vulnerable.
welcome, accepted, heard, those things. And you do such a good job. Like, such a good job. So,
Thank you. Yeah. And honest. I think that for me, that's the big thing that I love about coaches in particular. I've had I've had a couple good therapists. I've had a lot of bad therapists, but I've had a lot more honesty in general from like, for me, what works is people who are willing to be honest
Yes.
and tell me, because I can't always see things for myself. So I need somebody to tell me when I'm like, when my story is not helping me.
So true. Somebody who's going to be honest is massive because you're showing up to so you can
Yeah.
stay in the same place, or somebody who's gently gonna.
Give you some honest feedback in a kind, caring, loving way.
Yes.
Yeah.
It actually so amazing because I mean, you gave me so much feedback, but it was loving. I like can't even remember a moment where I was like, oh no, she's giving me harsh feedback. But like never. Like it just felt so natural, and you did it with so much ease and tact and grace and love that I just like didn't even feel these like slaps or like never did I feel like I got like, and sometimes, I mean, I was open to that, but your way of speaking and explaining, and it's just so seamless and kind. It's really nice. It's really nice.
Well, thank you. It just comes, I mean, I think the thing is that when you see someone, you see, and you probably experience this with your clients too, you see all their good intentions. And the only thing that you want to give some honest feedback on is where their intentions aren't being served
Yes.
by the way that they're thinking or behaving towards themselves or sometimes towards other people.
Yes.
You did. So let's talk about why, and let's talk about some other things that you could try. Like, let's not keep doing the same behavior, right? But a lot of times the challenge is really how we're talking to ourselves and what we're saying to ourselves.
Huge.
Yeah,
That was mine for sure.
I know.
I know. I know. Yeah. But that was it. So loving to me about being loving to myself that I was like, oh, I guess I can be loving to
Like,
myself.
oh yeah, maybe that's not the most loving thing I'm saying to myself.
No. Instead of like the tradition, oh, at least how I was raised, which was like being like yelled at to be grateful or like yelled at to be positive. And it's like, that is not work. And so your way of doing it, again, just so much modeling was done that it allowed you to see what that could even look like besides you just telling me, you were showing me. So it's really, really, that's the stuff.
Yeah, that's what always worked for me. So that's why I do it, because I think we can hear how to do something. And if it's not part of our lexicon, if it's not how we were raised, it doesn't matter. We can't understand it unless we experience.
Totally.
Right. And we also won't have any confidence that we can do it unless we try it out.
Exactly. That's such a true point. The confidence I gained in just seeing it. I could see where we were headed. And that was really helpful for me, who's someone who's struggling with like trusting in my own ability as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you are blindingly competent. And what's your like 30-second version?
Of
Let's record
everything.
that.
Yeah.
What's the like punchline?
Okay. Start to finish.
Yeah.
30 seconds. Okay, basically in a 30-second start to finish, I started out just like shaky and shameful and scared and feeling really blocked around my body and my pleasure, and came out with a sense of play, a sense of kindness to myself. I treat myself truly like a little baby now. That's what I say. And I not in like a like you're not getting out. I do things scared. I'm showing up. I'm being brave, braver than ever, actually. And I really think that all the work that we did together set the tone for some leaps and bounds made in my external, outside of my intimate sexual life, because I trust myself more. I care about myself more. And I treat myself better, honestly, all around. And I feel freer.
Yay.
It's true.
Thanks.
So I hope you enjoyed this conversation that I had with Kema. And if you would like to get going on your own transformation, or if you would just like to talk over your situation and see if it's one that is suitable for coaching, or if I have resources to recommend, which I very well might, I really want to invite you personally to book a consultation. That's what I do these for. And They are half-hour to 40-minute or so conversations, totally free, with me, where you get to bring whatever is going on for you, and we can talk about how we would work on it and overcome it in coaching. We could talk about the process that I would help guide you through to get you where you want to go. And that's the whole point. And it's free, so you might as well get one. So you just go to my website, laurajurgens.com, and you click book a consultation. It's really that easy. So don't wait, just get going and let's do it today. Okay, see you here soon. Hey, if you're curious about how you could have better sex and connections, go grab my free guide, Find Your Secret Turn-Ons. It's right on my website, www.laurajurgens.com, and the link is in the show notes. I'll see you here next time.